Beggar was sleeping on the street. Unexpected billionaire CEO forced him into a flash marriage. The first snow of the season had just begun to fall over Manhattan, turning the city into a silent, shimmering wonderland. Amid the gleaming windows and festive storefronts, a crumpled figure lay curled beneath a thin blanket near the corner of 47th Street and Lexington Avenue. His name was Elias. To most who passed, he was invisible, a forgotten soul swallowed by the noise of wealth and ambition. But tonight, fate was about to whisper his name in a way that would change everything. It was 2:13 a.m. when Aurora Kingsley stepped out of her sleek black town car. The CEO of Kingsley Innovations, one of the world's most powerful tech empires, she was known for her brilliance, ruthlessness in the boardroom, and her icy emotional distance. But tonight, she looked anything but invincible. Her lipstick was smeared, her designer heels dangled from one hand, and her eyes were red-rimmed from tears she hadn't let fall in over a decade. The death of her estranged father, the man who built the company she now led, had come with a will as cold and calculated as the man himself, inherit nothing unless married within 48 hours of my death. As she walked the empty streets, consumed by bitterness and desperation, her eyes landed on Elias. Something about him, perhaps the peaceful look on his face despite the bitter cold, stopped her in her tracks. She stared. For a long moment, she didn't see a beggar. She saw a man entirely untouched by the poison of wealth, expectation, or power. He looked free. Elias stirred, sensing someone near. When he sat up, blinking into the glow of a street lamp, he found the last thing he ever expected, a tall, striking woman in an evening gown, standing over him like an apparition from another life. "Are you married?" she asked abruptly, her voice flat but firm. "What?" Elias croaked, unsure if he was dreaming. "I said, are you married?" she repeated. He hesitated. "No." "Then marry me." Elias stared at her. "Is this some kind of prank?" Aurora knelt, her eyes suddenly softening. "No. It's insane, I know. But I need to get married, immediately. I'll pay you $1 million. No strings. Just one day. A courthouse signature, a photo for legal proof, then we go our separate ways. You can walk away a millionaire." Elias could have laughed. He could have walked away or accused her of mocking him. But something in her eyes, fragile and wild, made him pause. He didn't need the money. Not in the way she thought. What he needed was to matter to someone again, even just for a moment. And so, with a nod that surprised even himself, he said, "Okay." They married the next morning at a downtown courthouse. No flowers, no vows. Just the clack of a judge's gavel and a stunned silence between two strangers whose lives had just collided. After signing the documents, Aurora handed him a black envelope, thick with cash, and turned to leave. But Elias didn't move. "Why are you really doing this?" he asked gently. She looked back, surprised. No one had asked her that, not even her closest associates. "Because my father thought he could control me from the grave," she said bitterly. "This is my way of beating him." Elias nodded, then slowly reached into his worn coat and pulled out a folded paper. "My daughter, she used to draw pictures of us living in a little house with a garden. She died 2 winters ago. Pneumonia. We couldn't afford heat." Aurora's expression shifted. Her breath caught. "She believed in miracles," Elias continued. "Even when we had nothing, she believed people were good." Aurora looked away, her throat tight. Something changed after that moment. She didn't walk away. Instead, she asked if he'd have coffee with her. One cup turned into hours. Hours turned into stories. Laughter. Shared grief. And then, the unthinkable, she invited him to her penthouse to sleep somewhere warm. In the days that followed, Elias didn't leave. Not because he needed shelter, but because Aurora, against all odds, wanted him there. She saw something in him that no one else did: humility, kindness, wisdom. She began to ask his opinion in meetings. Listen to his thoughts on people and purpose. Slowly, the board noticed something different about her. Her leadership softened, sharpened in a new way. She was no longer trying to outrun her past, she was growing into someone new. And Elias, once broken, now rebuilding, began to smile again. He shaved. Found work consulting for a non-profit Aurora helped fund. He spoke to students about resilience. About loss. About how sometimes, when you lose everything, you're finally ready to receive the things that matter. 3 months later, on what would have been his daughter's birthday, Aurora surprised him with a small garden on the rooftop of her building. She believed in miracles, she said. So do I now. Tears streamed down Elias's face as he knelt to touch the soil. In that moment, surrounded by green in the heart of the city, the noise faded. Two souls who had collided by accident, or maybe destiny, now stood side by side, not because they had to, but because they chose to. What began as a cold, transactional deal had blossomed into something neither of them expected: healing. Love. A new beginning. Elias never cashed the envelope. Instead, he framed it as a reminder that sometimes, the most powerful miracles come wrapped in desperation, dressed as strangers, and carried by the quiet courage of two broken hearts daring to hope again. And in a world often too loud to hear its own heartbeat, one man sleeping on the street and one woman running from grief proved that kindness is still the most disruptive force of all.